Liang Zhi, who has been working for most of his life, was suddenly informed that he may be the son of a big shot in Beijing who has been abducted for many years. Before he had a chance to fantasize about his life after becoming rich overnight, he was reborn and returned to the Yi family in 1982, who bought him as their son and imprisoned him for 3 years. What should we do? What is the number of the grand prize lottery? How can one quickly buy a courtyard house within Beijing's second ring road without a penny in their pocket, and change their previous impoverished life? Anyway, just be a good person first. Hello, Uncle Police, I want to report that someone is reselling cultural relics here. Who am I? I am a good comrade who has received 3 years of reform education and always remembers my mission. By the way, which one is actually my dad? Why do they all say they suspect they are my biological dad? Keywords of the novel. Returning to August 22nd to be a good person without pop-ups, returning to August 22nd to be a good person. Download the complete set of TXT, returning to August 22nd to be a good person. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Hello, Police Uncle, I'm reborn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Hello, Police Uncle, I'm reborn. Liang Zhi's mind was buzzing with melon seeds, and there was a loud argument in his ear, occasionally mixed with a few cries of a woman, making him feel that life suddenly became unreal. The previous second, he was still waiting for DNA results in the hospital to see if he was the son of the big shot in Beijing who had been abducted for over 50 years. The next second, he returned to the Yi family in Baihe village and became the eldest son of the Yi family. Yi Debao, the god of fate, truly knows how to play. In the blink of an eye, he was sent back to 1982. Or at the critical moment when his identity was revealed, I don't know what the outcome would be, and whose son he really is. Liang Zhi moved his hands and feet a few times, which made him particularly unfamiliar with his healthy and strong body. In his past life, he was kicked out by the Yi family and found out that he was just bought by them from a kidnapper. He didn't even care about his sadness, so he went to the city with his wife and worked 2 jobs during the day and 2 jobs at night. Just to earn life. Saving money for his daughter. In the end, my body broke down and my daughter was gone. My wife couldn't bear the blow, and even after enduring 2 years, she passed away. You're just talking nonsense. The people of the Yi family are still arguing, and the second son of the Yi family is hot-tempered. He slammed the table fiercely, which frightened the Yi family and made them much quieter. The old man and the old lady are still here. If you get something good, you will have to split up and live a different life. Do you still have a place for your parents in your heart? If you dare to have that unfilial old man's mind, I will still give you a leg discount, even if you are the youngest in the family. Yeah, big brother. Yi Laosan spoke kindly, with a smile all over his face, but he stood steadfastly on the second side. We are concerned that the things were dug up by your big treasure, and we are willing to let you take the big head, but if you want to eat them alone, it's not right, right? Mr. Yi is usually respected and used to at home, and now he is being scolded by his 2 younger brothers at the top of his lungs. His face looks very ugly. Our family doesn't have any distribution, but when the 4th-year-old got married 2 years ago, all our savings were used to save face for him. At that time, you were making a fuss about dividing the land in the family first, so that no one in the future would marry a city wife and the family would have to sell houses and land for a discount to save face. Yi Lao was very imposing and took a deep breath. At that time, you said I was the boss, and our family had already subsidized the younger one. If I, as the boss, don't let you order anymore, your 2 families will be sandwiched in the middle. I'm afraid we won't be able to make ends meet. I'll just let my parents decide and divide the best 10 acres of land equally between your 2 families. The 4th family has nothing to do, and the remaining 5 acres will be used for the elderly too, while I won't occupy 1 acre of land. What, seeing our family dig up things from the reclaimed land, you feel like there's no division, and the things in the land should be divided equally. How shameless. Big brother, what you said is not right. Yes, that's right. It was a bit unfair when we divided the land, but the fourth brother spent a lot of money on our family's savings, and your parents shared it with you. Isn't that the food land still yours? It's not too much for me and my second brother to monopolize the middle of the 2 acres of good land. Yi Lao-san looked at Yi Lao-da disapprovingly and said. Yi Lao also followed suit and said, that's right. Besides, how did you divide it back then? What does it have to do with what you dug up in your land now? It was the land that was divided back then, not the home. Now that gold bumps have been dug up in the land, the whole family should share it equally. He sneered and said, if I go with the third person to cultivate the land, we won't share the things we dig up with you and the fourth person. Liang Zhi listened on the side and couldn't help but laugh. Yi Dabao, why are you laughing? Laugh. Yi Lao couldn't wait to scold Liang Zhi, not knowing if he was feeling guilty or something. Liang Zhi was already a bit unfamiliar with the name Yi Dabao. After a moment of confusion, he finally realized, I just feel like today is a good day, let's just come to light. The Yi family all looked at him with crazy eyes on their faces. Second uncle, third uncle. Liang Zhi put away his smile and called out. When his voice reached Yi Lao-da, he paused for a moment, wondering if he hadn't called out, Dad. This thing was dug up when I went down to the ground, so I should have some say, right? You have the right to speak nonsense. Yi Lao yelled uncontrollably, what's the point of the little furry child interrupting when adults speak? Even though Liang Zhi has been raised in such a remote small village for more than 10 years, his overall temperament still does not fit in with this place. At first glance, it doesn't look like the seed of the Yi family. The Yi family naturally couldn't get close. But this thing was dug out by me. I can dig out one piece, but if it's not safe, I can still dig out a second piece. Liang Zhi said calmly, you don't let me talk. If I dig it out again, I won't tell you. Dream it. Digging out a golden lump is already smoking from the ancestral tomb, hoping to dig out a second one. The Yi family all feel that he is talking nonsense. But my heart couldn't stop wavering. Who can say absolutely that this kind of fate-seeking thing? In case if this tiger thing really has that foolish fate and doesn't tell them, then, wouldn't they suffer huge losses? Yi Lao-san rolled his eyes and walked over with a friendly tone, patting Liang Zhi's shoulder. Dabao is right, he should be qualified to speak about this matter. Besides, Dabao has read books about etiquette, righteousness, integrity, and shame. He must have taught a lot in the books, and he will definitely not watch his uncles suffer losses. That's for sure, I must understand propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. Liang Zhi squinted his eyes and smiled. He glanced at Mr. Yi, who was quite polite, and said, I think it's too early for you to say how to divide it now. Firstly, it's unclear whether this thing is worth a lot of money. Even if you want to compete, you should first determine its value before competing. Don't end up with this thing being worthless and hurting the harmony of our big family. Secondly, if this is really a golden knot, it wasn't dug up in our courtyard. It's from the wilderness and wilderness. Who would have lost it? Liang Zhi turned his head to look at Yi Lao-san and said, the teachers in our school have all taught us that a good young man is someone who returns his money. So, I suggest taking things to the police station. Hey, why are you pushing me, uncle? I want to strangle you. Even Yi Lao-san, a smiling tiger, couldn't maintain his smiling face now. The second person is right, Xiaomao children should not interfere with adults. Especially the big kid from the boss, he's still a silly idiot. But this fool has a saying that's right. They look at this thing with golden knots, but what if it's not? Don't end up with a big fight between their brothers, they're just fighting over a piece of scrap metal. Think about it too. Can golden bumps be so easy to dig? Big brother, second brother. Yi Lao-san just shouted, and Yi Lao-da and Yi Lao-er understood his meaning. Although Dabao was foolish, he spoke the truth. Pack up and go to the city now. Mr. Yi said decisively. Third, you know many people. Let's see if you can contact someone reliable and reliable. Second, please contact fourth and let him. Isn't it enough to give him a share of the score just by contacting the fourth person? He hasn't said he cares about his family for so many years, said Yi Lauer with dissatisfaction. Yi, the eldest brother, had already settled down and regained his dignity. If this were any valuable thing, the fourth daughter-in-law's family would be from the city. With his help, we wouldn't be deceived. He glanced at Yi Lauer and Yi Lao-san and said, don't worry about making trouble in your heart either. The four of us have broken bones and tendons, and our parents are still there. Since I have to give you a share, I can't miss old four. Just dig it out again, there's no need to tell them. Mr. Yi made up his mind and felt much more relaxed. Liang Zhi stood aside and said softly, I think we should still carry forward the fine tradition of returning gold without leaving it behind. If we find any property of unknown origin, we should hand it over. The three brothers of the Yi family all gave him a glare, but didn't say much. The three of them, who were originally tense with swords and crossbows, now returned to the hall with a heavy expression, waiting for the sun to set, intending to enter the city in the dark while others were not paying attention. Liang Zhi sneaked out of the room shortly after the person left. There is a telephone on the village team. He climbed through the back wall of the brigade headquarters and, while the gatekeeper was not paying attention, used some small tricks to open the locked door of the brigade. He quietly looked around twice and immediately closed the door. Hello, Uncle Police. I want to report someone from Baihe village who has stolen first-class cultural relics and sold them for profit. The people have already set off for the city and have only been walking for less than 20 minutes. Liang Zhi hoarsely recounted the story of the Yi family digging out a golden lump in the ground and then going to the city in the dark to find a buyer. Yes, next to that golden lump, there was also a stone with words written on it, which looked like a heavenly book. He roughly described the situation of the tomb group excavated in this place in later generations. Back then, the Yi family made a fortune by relying on this golden lump. Those who went to the city to buy houses and those who became big bosses. Even if this place was developed later, the Yi brothers kept their mouths shut and enjoyed it for many years. Until 20 years later, the buyer was caught and this matter was revealed. However, in his past life, the three brothers of the Yi family went out to conduct an appraisal and inquired about it, and when they returned, they gave him the golden knot and asked him to go to the city to find someone. They gave him this thing and didn't inquire or ask too much. Naturally, they didn't give him a penny of the money. After the incident, he became the only participant in the Yi family and was sentenced to 3 years in prison under the condemnation of the family. After coming out, he found out that his son had fallen into the pond behind the mountain, and it took 2 days to catch him. My daughter didn't know who hit her head and fell ill from then on. Liang Zhi's gaze darkened for a moment before quickly calming down. When he heard someone ask for his name, he hastily said, I'm a good person. Immediately, he hung up the phone, listened to the commotion around him, skillfully locked the door, and sneakily climbed out of the team. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Dad is lying to you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Dad was lying to you. As soon as the three brothers of the Yi family arrived in the city, they had not had a chance to calm down and were arrested for investigation. Liang Zhi solved the crisis that might lead to entering the bureau, washed his feet comfortably, and slept until noon. Does anyone at home have a child? Xing Chang. Xing Chang's wife, the family is in trouble, come out quickly. The village chief's voice rang outside the Yi family. Liang Zhi also heard the commotion in a daze, afraid of missing something. He quickly refreshed his mind and put on his coat to get up. I stood in the yard and listened for a while washing my face with water. Xing Chang is not at home. The village chief looked at Yi Laoda's daughter-in-law Wei Shufan and said, these two are comrades from the County Public Security Bureau, and these three are comrades from the Cultural Relics Bureau. They came from the city center of the province. I heard that what tombstones and burial objects have been dug up in your family's land. Is there such a thing? The village chief gave Wei Shufan a gentle glance. A big shot cannot offend. When Wei Shufan heard the 3 words, Public Security Bureau, she was already panicked. Her gaze immediately fell on Liang Zhi, who was fetching water to wash his face in the yard, thinking to herself. Could it be that the golden knot was not dug by this evil seed, but stolen by him? When Wei Shufan thought of this possibility, she wished she could immediately go back 18 years ago and strangle this scoundrel. If only she had known that spending so much money to buy this scoundrel would have made her pregnant in less than 3 months, and she wouldn't have agreed to buy a child who is not related to her own family to add to the situation. You know what, to be honest, don't hide it. The village chief looked at Wei Shufan's expression and her voice immediately became stern. Ah, yes. It's something dug out, and we don't know what it is. It's all about picking up things day by day, and his father has already taken it to the city to ask. Wei Shufan looked at the people brought by the village chief, speaking somewhat awkwardly. The village chief was about to say something when a man with a fierce face next to him first spoke up, should we take it out to ask, or take it out to sell? Ask, ask, ask. Wei Shufan's mind was quite clever, but her mouth was not up to par, and she couldn't stand being overlooked by others. The man with a fierce face glanced at the village chief. The village chief immediately said seriously, what's going on? To be honest, are you going to inquire or sell it? He said with a stern face, I can tell you. Perjury is punishable. Wei Shufan immediately became afraid and said, yes, it was sold. No, it wasn't. It was to inquire if it could be sold, De Bao said. Yesterday, when Liang Zhi spoke to the 3 brothers of the Yi family, he did not shy away from Wei Shufan and Yi allowed us 3 biological sons. At this moment, I have almost learned everything. After finishing speaking, he yelled at Liang Zhi and said, Little rabbit, why don't you hurry and get over here? Liang Zhi remained expressionless and turned a blind eye to Wei Shufan's sharp eyes. Since Wei Shufan and Yi Xingqiang had a biological son, they have been increasingly dissatisfied with him. Over the years, he has become accustomed to it. I thought he ate too much, so I only gave him half a meal a day. At noon, if the Yi family eats, they will definitely drive him out to work under the big sun. Feeling that he was delayed in going to school and working, even though the teacher said he had the most chance to get into college in his class and was willing to waive tuition fees, they still couldn't help but rush him home to work in agriculture. That golden bump was dug out by him just a few days after he was forced to drop out of school and gambled his life in the field during his pioneering work. Something that changes the fate of the Yi family. It's almost something that destroyed half of his life. Liang Zhi suppressed the tumultuous emotions in his heart, grinned as usual, and repeated the story of digging out the golden bumps to others. More detailed than what Wei Shufan said, she said, I see that thing is extraordinary. The pattern on it seems to be used by someone with status as mentioned in the book. I thought about what kind of cultural relic this thing might be, so I brought it back and asked my dad to give me an idea, to see if it should be sent to the police uncle or to a museum. Can you take us to the place where you dug up something? One of the 3 staff members of the Cultural Relics Bureau said with a stern expression. Liang Zhi showed enthusiastic cooperation and said, okay, it's not far from our house. You guys come with me. After bringing the person over, Liang Zhi returned. The village chief and the people from the County Public Security Bureau have already left, and Wei Shufan is sitting in the hall wiping tears from her head. Big brother, our father and our second uncle and third uncle have been harmed by you and will go to jail. The second son of the Yi family gloated, as if there were no real fathers among the people who went in. He was all focused on watching Liang Zhi's excitement and seeing him beaten and scolded. Liang Zhi said with a stern expression, what nonsense. Our dad didn't do anything to resell cultural relics, how could he possibly go to jail? Upon hearing the 4 words, reselling cultural relics, Wei Shufan pounced with crimson eyes and said, "It's all your fault, you little troublemaker. It's all that junk you picked up, causing your family to go to jail. You're a broom. I shouldn't have spent money to buy you back. You should have been broken by a kidnapper and thrown onto the street to beg for food." Wei Shufan scolded people one by one with a broomstick star and a small troublemaker, even mentioning the matter of buying people. Liang Zhi had already known his background, with no worries in his heart. However, he still looked at Wei Shufan with shock on his face, as if the sky had fallen. "Mom, what are you talking about? You lied to me, didn't you? How could I have been bought by you? I was a piece of meat that fell from your belly in October when you were pregnant." He fully demonstrated the skills he learned from running dragon traps in Hengdian back then. The sound of crying and looting was deafening, making it impossible for neighbors to hear it. "What's wrong? This is it. Shufan, why do you have to vent your anger on Dabao as a child? What about the older children? They can't be replaced," the neighbor said. Liang Zhi took the opportunity to wipe his eyes and looked pitifully at his neighbors. Wei Shufan was in a fit of anger, ignoring what others were saying. She gritted her teeth and pushed the person away forcefully. This little broom star actually pinched her thigh when someone wasn't paying attention, but it hurt her so much. "I'll kill you, little brute." Wei Shufan was so angry that she ran to pick up the shovel at the corner of the wall to beat Liang Zhi's head. Liang Zhi looked at the shovel that was snapped at him and said in a faint voice, "You said, since you are not my mother, is it intentional to kill me when you beat me to death?" Wei Shufan's movements paused. In her understanding, her son was born to her, so she gave her all the life. Even if she killed her, she just took back the life she gave. It was only natural that the heavens could not let thunder strike her. But Liang knew it was not her birth. Will the heavens just take care of it? An intentional homicide. The comrades from the County Public Security Bureau just now still gave her the deterrence. It was just such a hesitant effort that people from all over the neighborhood who came to see the bustle responded, went forward and persuaded them to take away the shovel. If they really want to see people's lives through the hustle and bustle, would they still have a lifetime of conscience unease? I have to dream of a lonely soul dying in the middle of the night. Where can I sleep soundly? What are you two making a fuss about? Dabao is quite an honest child and works hard. Do you still want to chill the child's heart? The neighbor was not aware of the situation, but also understood Liang Zhi's situation in the Yi family. Dad fights, mom fights too, and the younger brothers don't respect this brother much, sometimes they also fight along. On Chinese New Year's Eve, the whole family was happily eating dumplings inside the house, but the child was kicked out to sweep the snow. Without the help of Mr. Liang at the village entrance, he might have starved to death in the snow many times. Wei Shufan was about to say something when she looked up and saw Mr. Yi coming back from outside. She quickly ran over and said, "Dad, are you okay?" Mr. Yi shook his head wearily and looked at the people in the yard, frowning and saying, "Let's all scatter." He didn't care about asking why these people were at their house, only focused on things and walked up to Liang Zhi, saying, "Come with me." Liang Zhi's heart sank slightly. I don't understand how Boss Yi came out. He followed the person into the inner room in a muffled voice, and Mr. Yi didn't beat around the bush. You come with me to the County Public Security Bureau later and say you dug out golden bumps. You've read a book and know this is a cultural relic. You want to secretly sell it yourself, so you made up a lie and lied to your second and third uncles, saying it was given to you by the widowed old man in the village, giving you a chance to take it out and sell it. As he spoke later, there was a hint of harshness in his consistently low voice. Remember it all, don't say anything wrong when the time comes. Liang Zhi laughed sarcastically after listening to what the person had said. This is asking him to take the blame again. Did you hear me? Mr. Yi urged anxiously as he remained silent. Liang Zhi casually smiled and said, I heard you. Mr. Yi breathed a sigh of relief and said, remember everything. Don't interrupt me later, go pack 2 pieces of clothes and come with me. I won't go, Liang Zhi said expressionlessly. Mr. Yi was stunned for a moment, then glared angrily and said, "What are you saying? I asked you to go, but you said you're not going." "Yeah, I'm not going." Liang Zhi glared back, "If you didn't hear me clearly, I'll say it again. I'm not going. Want to find him to take the blame. Dream it. He won't go to jail again in this lifetime. It's against you, isn't it? I'm your dad." Mr. Yi took a deep breath and said, "Hurry up and pack up your things. Your second and third uncles are still suffering inside. I won't argue with you. Don't be angry here and make trouble for me. I said I won't go." Liang Zhi said in a sharp voice. Mr. Yi immediately became angry and slapped his big-eared melon seed over, saying, "Little rabbit, did you mean it? On the contrary, did you? I'm your father, and if I let you go, you have to go. I've been raising you for more than 10 years, and it's time for you to repay me. Then tell me, can I still come back after I go?" Liang Zhi couldn't stand and let him fight, but he still had to deal with it. "I don't know if everyone outside has left clean now." Mr. Yi choked and felt a little annoyed that this foolish boy had become shrewd at this moment. However, he could only sigh helplessly and said, "You're still young. You're only 19 this year, and I've asked you all about it. If the situation is not bad and you voluntarily confess, you'll be out in 3 years. 3 years later, you are only 20.2, which is the age when you can marry a wife. When the time comes, Dad will ask your mom to introduce you to a good one." Mr. Yi drew a cake for someone and said, "When you come out, you can have your wife and children on the hot Kong. What else is there to be unsatisfied with? Dad can't harm you, can he? Dad drives a tractor and can earn over 100 yuan a month. The whole family relies on the money he earns to support them. If anything happens to Dad, this family will be ruined." He said earnestly, "If it weren't for supporting the whole family, Dad wouldn't have let you go. Do you think you can make money to support the family as a child? If Dad's not here, who will make money to support your brothers? Don't worry, all the money my dad has earned in recent years will be saved up for you to form a small family in the future. I won't give a penny to your younger brother or his family," he said, drawing another pie for someone. "What you said is true." Liang Zhi looked at the person with a skeptical expression. "Of course it's true. Dad can still lie to you," Yi Laoda promised with a smile as he thought there was a way. "Okay." Liang Zhi remained silent for a while, gritted his teeth and agreed. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The teacher said that good students should return money without hesitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The teacher said that a good student should not be ignorant when picking up gold. Another thing to say is that gold must be picked up first. Upon seeing this foolish guy relax, Grandpa Yi immediately showed a reassuring smile and gave Wei Shufan a few instructions on family matters. He immediately took Liang Zhi to the County Public Security Bureau. When he was stopped by someone to check, he heard the sentence, "Received a report." So I kept an eye on it and told the second and third that if they were really going to be convicted, I would use a unified statement to say that he didn't know and only came with the 2 of them. When he left, I would bring the Bao over to plead guilty and exchange them for going out. So when Yi Lao Er and Yi Lao San heard that they might be sentenced to 3 years, they immediately retracted their confession. What he said was the same set of rhetoric that Mr. Yi had explained to them before, which was just what Liang Zhi had said. At the County Public Security Bureau, Liang Zhi lowered his head and was taken in for questioning. "Did you dig this thing?" "Yes." "Why dig?" the other person asked with a fierce face. Liang Zhi spoke calmly, "My dad asked me to drop out of school and go home to farm, but my family doesn't have much land at all. So my dad asked me to go and open up the land. This thing was dug up by me when I opened up the land. At the end of last year, the village held a year-end summary meeting, encouraging everyone to cultivate land. Whoever cultivates land will benefit, as long as they pay the contract fee once at the end of the year. That's why Mr. Yi asked him to come home from school. At home, Wei Shufen has a job as a kitchen assistant in the cafeteria. Mr. Yi has to drive a tractor for people, and his younger brothers are still young. Only he can do the work of land reclamation. Do you know this thing? Liang Zhi shook his head and said, I don't know. Why did you pick it up and bring it home? It looks like gold, as our school teacher said, good students should never lose their gold. Liang Zhi said with a righteous expression on his face. Later, without waiting for the person across from him to ask, he lowered his head and looked a bit sad, saying, but when my dad came home just now, he told me that I saw this thing was a cultural relic, so I lied to my second and third uncles that it was given by Grandpa Liang, who has been taking care of me in the village, and asked me to find an opportunity to sell it. He sniffed hard and said, I've packed all my clothes and brought them over. My dad said that as long as I sit in prison for 3 years, I can get married without any delay. He also said. Liang Zhizhua said, my dad said, to the left, and my dad said, to the right, and the person in front of him slammed the table in anger. He pretended to be frightened and looked at the person with a timid expression, my mom said. Liang Zhi's voice softened a bit and said, I was bought by her for a lot of money. If it's useless, why don't you let the kidnapper break his leg and throw it on the street to beg for food? I don't want to be broken or beg for food. I want to hear what my dad said, go to jail for 3 years and marry a wife to have a good day. What do you mean? Are you not from the Yi family? Did you come back from trafficking? I don't know, Liang Zhi shook his head and looked like I didn't know anything, saying no more. The two interrogators looked serious and said, okay, we understand your situation. Take a look at the transcript, and if there are no issues, sign it. Liang Zhi carefully read it once and signed Yi Debao's name on it. Considering the situation, he explained, after the police verified it, Mr. Yi once again enjoyed lifting the silver bracelet. He honestly spent 2 days eating in the cafeteria and had an extra 2 chicken legs for the last meal before leaving with a sad expression on his face. Upon returning to the Yi family, Wei Shufen had already learned from the village chief that the 3 brothers of the Yi family would definitely be able to sit comfortably in this prison. As soon as I saw Liang Zhi, it was a fierce scolding. Liang Zhidong couldn't hear him and went into the house to pack up his things before leaving without hesitation. Wei Shufen looked dumbfounded and said, little troublemaker, where are you going? You stop me. I told you to stop, did you hear me? Liang Zhizai doesn't care about it. Since he was exposed about being bought, he naturally took advantage of the hot weather to move out, resettle and apply for an ID card, and then record the land he opened up under his name. He had a clear understanding and self-awareness in his heart. In his past life, he was a lowly person. Even if he had such a great chance of being reborn, it was just a rebirth, not a change of mind. If he were to invest in stocks, buy houses, and do business now, and seize the trend of the times and fly into the sky, it would be completely unrealistic. I don't have any money either. So this place cannot be thrown away. Moreover, there are tombs beneath this land. Only after the land is cultivated and registered can there be a chance to receive compensation for land acquisition. He approached the village chief and said, Uncle, if this happens, I definitely won't be able to return to the Yi family in the future. My parents don't know when they will be able to find it, but I still have to make a living. Do you think I can allocate 1 acre of the 3 acres of land that I opened up before to my name? Those 3 acres of land have not been registered yet. Even if you don't tell me, I plan to go find you. The village chief sighed, with a fake and compassionate expression on his face. I didn't expect that you weren't born to Xingchang and his wife. Oh, what a sin. Liang Zhi gave a bitter smile and said, let's let fate play tricks on people. Before, I thought they just didn't treat me well and loved my younger brother. I didn't expect. Not to mention that anymore, uncle. I'll just take the 1 acre south of that land, and the remaining 2 acres will still belong to the Yi family, without causing you too much trouble. If all 3 acres were given to Liang Zhi, Wei Shufan would definitely cause trouble. Although the village chief is not afraid of her, he will definitely have a headache. Since Liang Zhi took the initiative to speak, he was also happy to save trouble. Cheng. The village chief patted the person's shoulder and said, "You have a heart. The Yi family doesn't care about anything, this child can still think of filial piety. He is still young, so kind." Liang Zhi naturally wouldn't say that in the future, when developing the tomb complex, the scope of land acquisition will start from the middle of the land he wants, all the way south, occupying 8 acres of land. When the ancient tomb is excavated in the future, the Yi family can only watch as the compensation for land acquisition has nothing to do with their own family. He left the village team headquarters satisfied and went to the city to apply for a household registration. Explained the reason, he still chose to be called Liang Zhi, just like in his previous life. Holding a brand new household registration book, he moved to the village's Lao Liang family. The Liang family is an outsider, and Mr. Liang never got married and has no children. When I was alive before, I took good care of Liang Zhi. It can be said that it wasn't for Mr. Liang giving him a few extra bites of food, he really wouldn't have lived to this age. Liang Zhi was also grateful. As he grew older, if he found mushrooms or wild chickens or rabbits in the forest, he would send them to Mr. Liang and the 2 of them would eat together. Before Mr. Liang passed away, he gave the keys to his home to Liang Zhi and even wrote a will. So when Liang Zhi moved in, the village acquiesced. Anyway, the chicken, duck, pig, rice, flour, and oil raised by Mr. Liang have all been divided, and the remaining house is also in a dilapidated condition, just barely able to accommodate people. The Liang family does not occupy much land, only a small yard that can grow a few rows of vegetables, barely enough for 1 person to chew. Now it is empty and has nothing. But now, not to mention that there is rice that can be cooked at home, there is no pot at all. Liang Zhi finished tidying up the house, feeling empty inside. After some thought, I decided to go to the village chief's house. "Is your eldest nephew here? Have you eaten yet? Come in and have some together." The village chief was very enthusiastic. Liang Zhi's nose moved and he smelled the taste of braised pork belly stewed with cabbage. He smiled politely and said, "No, uncle. I just came to borrow some money from you. You see, I've moved out so cold that I have a place to stay, but as you know about Grandpa Liang's situation, neither of the 2 large iron pots is left, let alone anything else." The village chief's face stiffened slightly and he said, "Uncle Liang has no children. After he's gone, everyone will follow the rules passed down from their ancestors and divide the property. Mr. Ko Liang has made a will, and it is clear that there is no need to divide it. I know the rules in the village, and I don't have any other intention of coming here. I just wanted to borrow 50 yuan from you and repay it to you by the end of the year." Liang Zhi chuckled, without practicing Tai Chi with anyone, and directly stated his purpose. This 50 yuan is not a small amount, the village chief really dares not borrow it. Facing Liang Zhi's sincere gaze, the words of refusal slipped around his lips and he swallowed them back. "Cheng. Wait a moment, I'll take it for you." When the village chief returned to his house to withdraw money, the village chief's wife smiled and looked at Liang Zhi, asking, "What did you say to your uncle?" "Borrow 50 yuan from my uncle." Liang Zhi didn't hide it. "What?" The village chief's wife suddenly changed her expression. Just as she was about to go back to the house to stop her own man, the village chief had already come out with money, holding a large enamel jar in her hand. "Can't borrow it." The village chief's wife roared. The village chief glared at her, pushed the person away, walked up to Liang Zhi, and handed him the money. "Uncle can trust you, so there's no need to use an IOU for this money." He also handed the enamel jar to the person and said, "It's getting late now. You're going to buy pots, bowls, rice, noodles, salt, and oil right now. I don't know when you'll be able to eat. Take it back and eat it first. Thank you, uncle. Liang Zhi politely said a few words without much hesitation. He took the money and food, and did not delay much at the village chief's house. As soon as the person left, the village chief's wife exploded and said, "Are you crazy? Lending him 50 yuan is no different from beating a dog with a bun. Hurry up and get the money back from me. Did you hear me?" Seeing the village chief remain indifferent, the village chief's wife stomped her foot fiercely and said, "If you don't go, I'll go. Stand there for me." The village chief let out a low growl and then glared at the person. That 50 yuan should be given to him. The village chief's wife stared like copper bells and pulled her neck, shouting, "Why bother? Why? Why do you say so?" The village chief fiercely gouged out the person and said, "When Xingchang and his wife were going to register Debao, how did the village registration situation come about? Others don't know, but you don't know." He snorted coldly and said, "You'd better pray that these things haven't been discovered." The village chief, with a hint of anger, said, "I said I wouldn't accept it back then. It's better for you. Sooner or later, you'll be killed by your petty gain. I didn't do it for the good of my family. So, the expenses in that family are just pointing to your meager salary. When will you be able to eat meat?" The village chief's wife gradually became more confident. The village chief sneered, "Eating meat. It's best for you to start being a vegetarian and praying to the gods and immortals for blessings from today on. Otherwise, if something happens to me, your children won't be able to find a secure job in the future." The village chief's wife was frightened and immediately dared not speak again. She clasped her hands and bowed to the surroundings. The village head's family had a heavy meal. Liang Zhi actually created a fragrant fragrance. The corn-flour wo-wo is eaten with braised pork belly stewed with cabbage. Don't mention it too much. After eating and drinking enough, he took a nap and didn't rush out to buy anything. Tomorrow has a big collection, and things can be cheap for all ages, selling everything. He got up and tidied up the other 2 rooms, and also dug up the soil in the yard. He planned to buy some cabbage seeds and plant them tomorrow. Waiting for all this to be done, he lay on the kong and began to think about his future plans. I don't know if the personnel from the Cultural Relics Bureau can excavate the tomb, just pointing to land acquisition compensation is not practical. It's not realistic to make money by selling fish. In this place, there are many rivers and you can also catch fish and shrimp. But they are all ordinary river crucian carp and the like, and there's not much that can be sold at a high price. Even if he wants to win by quantity, he must first find a large number of fish harvesters. Setting up a stall is possible, but based on his past experience at the market, there are only 5 companies in their village carrying buckets to sell fish. Don't even think about ginseng and lingji. In the nearby area, they don't grow this thing at all, and he doesn't know any other herbs. After much thought, Liang Zhi never thought of any reliable way. I fell asleep and even had a dream. In his dream, he married his previous wife again and gave her a grand wedding. She wore a pure white wedding dress, with a shy smile on her face, and slowly walked towards him. Lao Liang. Open the door. Open the door. Lao Liang. Suddenly, a rapid and irritable knocking on the door woke him up from his sleep. As he and his wife were about to take the final step of their wedding, his eyes opened and everything except for pitch black was gone. Who is it? Liang Zhi put on his clothes, picked up a torch he had found from the edge of the stove, and cautiously walked out. It's me, Lao Zhao, you. Mom. The person outside the door, looking at Liang Zhi's appearance with a flashlight, was shocked. End of this chapter. I have principles in chapter 4, but he gave me too much. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I have principles in chapter 4, but he gave me too much. Liang Zhi looked at the shocked expression on the person's face and looked at the people outside. with small leather shoes, a small dress, and a brightly colored jeep parked behind it. Those who can be so high profile must be either rich or noble. Is it that big shot who seems to be his father who brought him here? The old man in front of me, who doesn't seem very smart, recognized him, which is why he was so shocked. Perhaps he bears a striking resemblance to the portrait of an old ancestor in a wealthy family. Liang Zhi has already begun to think about how to speak up without showing his fear, and how to let go of spending money after returning to the family. When he has money, he must have a bottle of Sprite in his left hand and a bottle of Coca-Cola in his right hand, and only take one sip from each bottle. Hey, Mom, Lao Liang, why have you become so young? The not very clever old man was very excited and turned to the young man next to him, saying, Cheng, take a look, I really didn't lie to you. This old Liang, who used to have wrinkles all over his face like me, is not as young as me. Now he has become like a young man in his 20s, and that must be the effect of that magical treasure. Grandpa. I'm not Lao Liang. Liang Zhi spoke with a foul expression on his face. Also, I'm just 19 this year. No matter how old he was in his past life, he is only 19 in this lifetime. A serious young man. He now understood that this seemingly unintelligent old man was not the butler sent by his father to take him back to inherit the family, but just an old man with abnormal mental state and delusions. Liang Zhi's gaze shifted from the master to the young master. The other party gave him a friendly smile and said with great restraint, Excuse me late at night, but I don't know if Mr. Liang has taken a break. If he has, we'll wait until tomorrow morning. Grandpa Liang is resting now, but if you want to wait for him to wake up, I advise you to leave. Liang knew. The young man's gaze was surprised, with a hint of displeasure, but he still suppressed his emotions and held a friendly smile. But where are we not polite enough? He said confidently, no matter what it takes to see Mr. Liang, I am willing to give it a try. Could you please help me spread the word? Talking is still old-fashioned. Liang Zhidwa glanced at the person and then at the not very smart old man next to him, wanting to know if these two were roommates from the same hospital. Grandpa Liang passed away a few days ago. He looked at the person hesitantly and said, If you really want to find it, buy some paper money later and I will take you over to pay respects. As for whether you can summon souls, I can't guarantee it. Have you passed away? The young man frowned deeply. He pulled Lao Zhao aside and pressed him against the car door with a fierce tone, without any resemblance to the noble young master before. Didn't you say that thing could prolong life and cure all kinds of diseases? So why did he still die? Cheng, spare your life, Cheng Xiao. So, that old Liang too is already 100 or 2 years old, and it can be considered as prolonging life, right? This is all thanks to that thing. Lao Zhao swallowed his saliva and his legs trembled. And you've also seen the county mayor. He's just suffering from stomach ulcers. He used to get more and more ulcers after treatment, but now he's eating it happily. So, that's how he cured himself, by drinking that thing. It's no use talking about that now. Cheng Xiao let go with a cold snort, feeling helpless despite feeling angry in his heart. People are all dead, and anything else is unnecessary. Lao Zhao's eyes turned and he walked over to suggest, Lao Liang too is not here, but isn't his house still there? What does that mean? Cheng Xiao frowned. Lao Zhao said, that thing is precious. Even if Lao Liang too is gone, his family won't throw it away. We are here to find something, and even if we can't find anyone, as long as the thing reaches us, we don't have to worry about not being able to find the divine medicine to cure the disease. Can it be done? Cheng Xiao hesitated for a moment, but quickly set his mind and said, let a dead horse be a living horse doctor. He quickly regained his humble and polite demeanor as a noble young master before, and returned to the door of the Liang family. He politely said, it seems that we didn't come by chance. I didn't expect that Mr. Liang has already passed away. Cheng Xiao sighed and his face quickly turned sad. I want to pay my respects to Mr. Liang, but it's getting late now. I don't know if you can keep me for one night. Tomorrow, I'll go to the city to buy some fruit and melon offerings, ingot candles, and pay my respects to Mr. Liang. The small space at home may not be very convenient, Liang Zhi refused without even thinking about it. One of these two people is strange and talkative, while the other is not very smart and always wants to keep their eyes open. What if they want to take advantage of him falling asleep and fix his waist? Cheng Xiao's face showed a look of regret, and he had about 10 more banknotes in his hand. I really want to pay homage to Mr. Liang. Could you please help me, young man? I can't show my respect for my small thoughts. Liang Zhi's eyes lit up as he looked at the already thick unity. Cheng Xiao felt there was a play, so he immediately pulled out dozens of big unity cards. The place at home is indeed small, but if the two of you don't mind, squeezing together is still possible. Liang Zhi quickly opened the door lock. He doesn't want to open the door for anyone, he's really afraid of being cheated. But he can't resist this person giving too much. Thank you, little brother. Cheng Xiao smiled politely and put the money in people's hands. Liang Zhi also grinned and invited someone into the room. The room has just been cleaned today and is relatively clean. He led the person to the east room and said with a warm smile, the Kong in the east room is more spacious. The two of you will make do with it tonight in this room. I will go to the west room to sleep. If you have anything to do, just call me. Thank you, little brother. Liang Jichao smiled foolishly and carried the blanket to the west room. Before going to bed, I even added a bolt to the door and propped it against the door with a stool. After finishing these, Liang Zhizai went up to the Kong to drill into the bed. The western house didn't have a heated Kong, fortunately the weather is not so cold now. Rubbing my arms and getting hot, I got into bed and wrapped tightly, but it wasn't very cold either. The next day. Liang Zhi got up early in the morning. I want to go to the market, but I'm not very confident about these two people at home. Plus, it's not good to just throw them here. Besides, they even said they were going to pay their respects to Grandpa Liang. After weighing things, I ultimately gave up on going to the market. After all, they gave money. A total of 75 great unity cards, add up to 750 yuan. After thinking for a moment, he went to the village chief's house to repay the 50 yuan borrowed and said, "Thank you, uncle." He said some beautiful polite words, returned the large teapot to the person, and was warmly stuffed with a few steamed buns by the village chief's wife. Unable to evade, he accepted it and said, "Thank you, auntie." After waiting for someone to leave, the village chief's wife looked at the money that had been returned and couldn't even see enough of it happily. This kid knows human affairs and really knows how to repay it. Speaking with a strange expression, he said, "You said he borrowed it last night and returned it early this morning. What is this picture? What is the picture?" The village chief snorted with a black face, "The picture has greater benefits." The village chief's wife was slightly stunned and said, "He probably doesn't want to get his household registration and let us keep paying to support him, right?" She stomped her foot in frustration and said, "If I had known, I shouldn't have given him steamed buns." The village chief glared at the person and said, "If he only cares about eating a few vegetables and steamed buns, it's okay. There's no need for him to have an extra bite of food at home. If he's afraid, then he's afraid." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. These two people probably want to sleep for free, right? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. These two people probably want to sleep for free, right? Why don't we just need a bite of food? The village chief's wife became angry after waiting for someone to finish speaking. Can you have some long-term vision? The village chief glared at him with disdain. If he only wants food and clothing, let's take care of him. I'm afraid he won't hesitate to get away with it. If he goes out and loses money, he'll come back and ask us to wipe his butt. The village chief's wife immediately became excited and said, "Why bother? We don't owe him anymore. Why? With this, Baiha village is not just a child he bought from Yi Debeo. With the food and cigarettes you used to indulge in from several families, said the village chief with a calm face. The village chief's wife remained silent for a while before muttering, then you half pushed and half pushed, didn't you insist on returning it? You. The village chief gritted his teeth and said in a wicked voice, I'll be killed by you damn woman sooner or later. He sighed and said, let's eat first. When the villagers are all busy on the ground, I'll talk to this kid and see what his thoughts are, whether he wants money or something. Sigh. What a sin. Liang Zhi had no idea that he was just borrowing and repaying money, which could make the village chief and his family think of so many things. He thought of his empty home without even a pot, biting on steamed buns, and borrowing a kitchen from a relatively simple and unscrupulous family in the village. Let's make a meal with your family, using oil, salt, rice, and noodles. After you calculate the quantity later, I will convert it into cash for you, he said. This family is usually kind-hearted. Upon hearing this, they scolded him and said, where did you say that? It's just cooking a meal. How much food can you eat alone? Whatever you say is not for money, just open up and do it. I'll carry firewood for you. Hey, auntie, I'm really not alone. Liang Zhi stopped someone and said, we're in trouble at home. I'm paying respects to Grandpa Liang, so I can't let anyone go hungry, can I? Don't be polite to me, it's all their money. Let's just take it for granted. Uncle Liang still has relatives. Auntie frowned and said, don't be a scammer, right? Although old Liang's house is not big, it's also a good piece of land. It's not far or near from all the houses in the village, and just a short distance away is the main road. I heard that the supply and marketing cooperative in the town has now opened up its name, allowing each village to set up sales points. Old Liang's place is just suitable for this business. Don't let them come here and deceive you into asking for a house. Don't worry. Grandpa Liang made a will to give me this house, so no one can take it away. Liang Zhi smiled foolishly. The villagers don't understand what kind of will is not a will, and only believe that it is only natural for the father to die and the son to succeed. So what kind of will can be more powerful than someone else's own son? Liang Zhi finds it difficult to explain this matter. I don't want to continue this topic with anyone, so I just blurted it out and said, don't worry, I know the importance. I must be concerned about this matter and won't be fooled. He pretended to be very sad and sighed, I only have the house that Grandpa Liang left for me now. From now on, I will be his own grandson. I have to burn paper money for him to worship during holidays. Auntie couldn't help but feel heartbroken upon hearing this, but sympathy was lacking. After saying a few comforting words to the person, I went to get busy. Liang Zhi cooked some millet porridge, cut some shredded cabbage for cold dishes, boiled some eggs, and fried a shredded potato. He left a big Unity card and borrowed 3 sets of bowls and chopsticks to go back. I still feel a little heartache, but I can't help it. The minimum face value that person gave was a big Unity card, and he couldn't find any place to change for money. The lady looked at the big Unity picture and couldn't help but mutter to her own man, did Uncle Liang leave money for him? Otherwise, where did he get the money? The man remained silent, and she muttered to herself, Wei Shufan is such a stingy person. It's impossible to give him any money. A son who bought him at a high price and raised him for so many years, what reward should he confiscate? Let's split up and not adopt his father and mother. It's good not to ask him for money. You don't care how they get their money. If you have time, feed the pigs. The man tapped his dry tobacco bag impatiently. My aunt glared at me, put the money away, and went out to gossip with other old sisters. Liang Zhi doesn't know about the gossip in the village, let alone how bad his sleep has been these past few days when several other families have also bought children. Wake up. It's just time to have dinner. Liang Zhi looked at Qing Xiao and Lao Zhao with a warm smile and said, breakfast is a bit easier, can you two make do with it? Qing Xiao Ben doesn't really want to eat it. He really doesn't like farm things. Just the nose twitched, and my eyes couldn't help but drift onto the shredded potatoes. Did you stir-fry this? Qing Xiao looked at the dishes in Liang Zhi's hand with some disdain, clearly indicating that they were used by someone else at home. He thought for a moment and went to the car to get a new set of dishes and chopsticks. Liang Zhi twitched at the corner of his mouth and didn't say anything about this young master's cleanliness obsession. He chuckled and said, I stir-fried it. There isn't much delicious food in the countryside, just cabbage and potatoes. Qing Xiao hummed and filled a bowl of millet porridge. After drinking 2 mouthfuls, he didn't like it very much. This millet is of average quality, but the food is good. He put down the porridge bowl and added 2 mouthfuls of fried potato shreds. He didn't touch any eggs. Liang Zhi smiled and said, our Xiaomi here is really decent, but everyone is reluctant to eat the good ones and keeps them for money exchange during the market. Qing Xiao nodded, not very interested. Liang Zhi remained silent and buried his head in eating. After dinner, Qing Xiao approached Liang Zhi with a very friendly smile and said, brother, you see we're not familiar with this place either. It's not good to go empty-handed to pay respects to Mr. Liang. Can you please help us go to town or somewhere to buy some tribute candles and bring them back? Ah. All right, of course it will. Liang Zhi didn't think much and replied with a smile, so let's go now. We're not going, we'll wait for you here. Qing Xiaodao. Liang Zhi frowned, feeling strange in his heart. He smiled foolishly and said, I'll go alone. I can't explain how much money I've spent, how about you guys come with me? It's okay. Qing Xiaozheng was about to refuse, and he couldn't help but change his expression to Liang Zhi's skeptical gaze. I'll let Lao Zhao go with you, you two drive my car. As he spoke, he pulled Lao Zhao aside and reminded him, take him out for a little more time. Don't worry, Qing Xiao, I will definitely do it well. Old Zhao replied. Qing Xiao asked in a low voice again, tell me what that thing looks like again. Liang Zhi looked at these two people sticking together and biting their ears, feeling that they didn't seem to be looking for someone seriously. Before departure, he went to the west room and took out all the money from yesterday's hidden wall crack, placing it close to him. Don't these two people sleep for nothing all night, eat his breakfast again, and then want to take the money back, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 6, Give Him Another Wife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, Give Him Another Wife. Liang Zhi, along with his acquaintances, found a household in the town that specializes in handling daily chores. He quickly bought all the incense candles and paper money, and even bought 2 sacks of gold ingots. Young man, be filial. It was Liang Zhi who followed the village chief here to buy things during Mr. Liang's funeral. At that time, Grandpa Liang did indeed leave him some money, but he also knew that even if he had the money in his hands, he couldn't keep anything. He decided to have the best of it all and held a dignified funeral for Grandpa Liang. Even the cemetery was the most luxurious one in the village. Liang Zhi smiled shyly. As soon as Lao Zhao saw that he had just come out and had bought everything, he suddenly became anxious. As soon as he left, he grabbed the man and said, hey, these are not enough. Is there anything else I need to buy? This shop has a wide range of things. Paper, cattle, horses, boys, girls, and so on. Liang Zhi said in a simple and kind tone. Paper tied. Lao Zhao's eyes rolled around, thinking that this thing would definitely take time. He immediately said, then we need to give Lao Liang a few adjustments. Speaking, he took the person back. The boss was supposed to lock the door, so the things here cannot be discovered. It's hard to say what the current policy is, but there are always people who use chicken feathers as arrows. They don't want to cause trouble, they can avoid it if they can. Do you two have anything else to do? He opened a crack in the door and asked cautiously. Lao Zhao laughed twice and said, I heard older brother, can you still make paper and tie people here? Can it be? The boss hesitated. I'm not sure what these two people had in mind. He remembers that this family is not a very wealthy family either. When I was buried before, didn't I buy 2 sets of paper to tie cattle and horses? We came from the capital to visit our family. I didn't expect my old brother to have already gone. I thought to myself, I didn't have a chance for the younger generation to kiss him before I passed away. This person is gone, and I can't let him be alone and not enjoy filial piety. Lao Zhao said with sincerity, so take a look, can you give us a few boys and girls, big houses or something? It's best to give him another wife. He sighed and said, you don't know, my old brother has a hard life. He has no children or daughters in his lifetime, and he hasn't even gotten a wife. He just lived alone until he was 102 years old. That's not easy, the boss couldn't help but be moved as he listened to Lao Zhao's words. Then you come with me. Come in, let's all talk. Lao Zhao let out a sigh and pulled Liang Zhi in again. Liang Zhi naturally couldn't say anything, after all the money he spent was from others. Just Lao Zhao calculated everything, but he didn't. The boss would lead him into the west-facing warehouse, and as soon as the door opened, 7 or 8 red-faced paper pricks met his 4 eyes. Mom! Lao Zhao was so scared that he almost tripped over the threshold. Fortunately, Liang Zhi reached out and helped him. Be careful, Liang Zhi said. The boss pointed to the paper-tied people standing in rows inside the house and said, they're all here. Take a look, what do you like? Choose your own. What? Starting from here. Old Zhao asked in a startled voice, isn't it freshly made? The boss chuckled and said, look at what you're saying, can this thing be made in real time? Don't you rush to use it. If you're not in a hurry, I can also make it for you in real time. The construction period will be at least 3 days. It depends on whether you want something complex or in large quantities. Lao Zhao immediately wanted to say that there was no problem, but in response to Liang Zhi's skeptical gaze, he could only swallow his words. Hurry up, let's hurry up. Lao Zhao felt bitter in his heart and pointed at a few boys and girls. Let's just use these few. The boss responded, calculated the money, and helped everyone move everything to the car. Lao Zhao looked at the 4 people sitting in the back seat staring straight at him, feeling a chill. Let's go back now, then. Otherwise, it should be noon. Liang Zhi looked at humanity. When Lao Zhao heard that he was going back, he immediately became excited and said, no way. Liang Zhi looked at the person puzzled. Lao Zhao chuckled twice and said, we only bought incense candles, paper money, and paper to prick people, not tribute. We can't miss fruits, pears, and peaches. Where can I buy melons, fruits, pears, and peaches this season? Liang Zhi looked at the person and became more and more certain that he was not very clever. Lao Zhao suddenly came to his senses and said, there's no such thing as a small place in town, there must be one in the county. Let's go buy it in the county. Going to the county now. Now. Liang Zhi became more and more suspicious of their intentions and more eager to go home. Goodbye, Uncle Zhao, it's already this time. If you go to the county again, it might be dark when you come back. It's better to fall black. Just go to the county. Lao Zhao stepped on the accelerator and was about to take Liang Zhi towards the county. When passing by the market, I found that it had not yet dispersed. Uncle Zhao. Look, there are fruit sellers on the market. Let's go take a look. There's really no time to come back from the county. Liang Zhi pointed to the nearby market road. Lao Zhao took a deep breath and cursed inwardly why it was so unfortunate. He could only stop the car and follow the people to the market to choose fruits. At this time, there were not many fruits, and most of them were selling guoguang apples. They didn't look very attractive at first glance. They were probably purchased by the commune, and the remaining ones were quite bumpy. Each family was reluctant to eat them for themselves and took advantage of the market to exchange them for money. In addition, there were some sand fruits. After walking for a while, they finally saw one selling oranges. Lao Zhao also bought a bag, and as he watched the two of them go out again, he came up with a quick idea. "Xiao Liang, do you think you haven't bought anything at home? You should have bought them all together. There's a convenient car here, so it would be great to take them back together. It also saves you from having to travel again later. This is not good." Well, young Master Cheng is still waiting at home. When he arrived, Liang Zhi had already roughly inquired about the identities of these two people. Lao Zhao is a local from the county. He used to work as a production director in a state-owned factory, but he didn't specify which factory. "I have been preparing to retire for the past few months, so I have become more idle. I accompany people around and work as a driver for them. Qing Xiao is from the capital city. Besides, Lao Zhao didn't mention it either. It's okay. You can rest assured to use it among the buyers. Qing Xiao is a good talker and won't mind. Go quickly. Buy more, buy slowly, don't worry." Lao Zhao urged with a smile, and enthusiastically stuffed a pile of National Universal Grain and Meat tickets. Liang Zhi held the ticket in his hand and felt even more certain in his heart. This old man is just delaying time. Qing Xiao must have another purpose to stay at home. But what can he do? It may not be possible to make it back in time at this moment since it can't be changed, why not kill him more? Even if Qing Xiao wants to find something, he must have something at home to find for him. As soon as Grandpa Liang's funeral was over, the villagers couldn't wait to distribute their belongings and didn't even leave behind a better Kong cabinet. The remaining clothes and shoes that no one dared to ask for were also burned. The bedding he covered yesterday was still brought from the Yi family, which was an old bedding he had been using before. Besides, the Liang family can be said to throw 2 stuffed eggs when a mouse passes through the door, so there's nothing to ask for. Even the 740 yuan is now being carried well by him. Thinking this way, he reached into his inner pocket carrying the money. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Encountering a little brother who taught him small craftsmanship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Encountering a little brother who taught him small craftsmanship. Fortunately, the money is still there. Liang Zhi breathed a sigh of relief and increasingly felt that there was nothing to worry about. Anyway, he is poor and has nothing to worry about except for his waist. Looking at these two people, it doesn't seem like they're trying to make a fuss about his waist. Holding the grain vouchers given by Lao Zhao, he first went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy a lot of things, such as rice, millet, white noodles, rapeseed, salt, oil, vinegar, tea, and so on. As long as they were available and useful, he bought them all once. I also bought 100 eggs. Benefiting from the development of small videos in previous lives, he learned many small skills, such as tea egg, a small recipe, and he did not know how much he had recorded. After losing his wife in his previous life, he always fired on his own. In these bitter days, I only rely on such a little appetite to maintain my sweetness. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to survive these days. Difficult, it's hard not to see hope. Just thinking about the delicious food he made from time to time in the past 3 or 5 years, the greedy insects in his stomach started to hook up with him. He walked to the window selling soy products again and asked the tofu seller for a piece of tender tofu. This tender tofu, turn around and cut it into small pieces. Put it in a frying pan, beat 2 eggs, and add soulful sauce. It's so delicious, don't even eat too much. I bought kitchen utensils such as pots, bowls, ladles, and pots again, and Liang Zhi walked towards the parking spot of Lao Zhao, big and small. Just as he had put away his things, Lao Zhao was struggling to find another excuse to hold him back when Liang Zhi suddenly exclaimed, "That kid! What are you doing?" Lao Zhao was startled and followed the sound, but he didn't notice anything wrong. Liang Zhi has already rushed forward. He spent 3 years in prison in his past life and had many friends in prison. Those people get along well with him and are also willing to teach him some housekeeping skills, such as how to quickly master and apply unlocking techniques, basic operation of removing 5 batteries in 10 minutes, practical language skills that start earning millions in minutes and seconds, and so on. At this moment, as he watched the young man spinning in front of a bicycle, he only needed to glance at the person's eyes to know which lock this kid was trying to break. "What's up, you kid?" Liang Zhi walked over and grabbed the person's hand, quickly pulling out the tool for the crime from their pants. The young man panicked and shouted, "Are you sick?" Seeing him struggling to break free from Liang Zhi's big hand, he immediately turned his eyes and shouted, "Someone, there's a coward here who wants to steal a bicycle." "Whose bicycle is it?" "Come on, there's a thief. Don't confuse black and white with me here. Who is the thief who wants to steal a car? When we go to the police station later, we can immediately find out." Liang Zhi grabbed people's hands and snorted. "Look at the oil on your hands. You've stolen more than one car just now, haven't you? Where are all the chains that were unloaded first? Tell me honestly." "You his mother," the young man struggled for several times, but he couldn't move. He whispered to warn people, "Mind your own business, believe it or not, I'll stab you. My eldest brother is on the way. It's still the gang that committed the crime." Liang Zhi caught the person deeper and shouted to the onlookers to call the police. In such a large market, in order to prevent trouble, there are people on duty not far away. Soon someone responded and ran to shout for someone. The young man became anxious, and his other hand, which had not been caught, groped in his pocket for a while before pulling out a small knife and fiercely turning to the man, saying, "Go ahead." Liang Zhi was already on guard, so he turned his head and dodged. He reached out to grab the person's wrist and folded it, causing the young man to cry and beg for mercy. Big brother, I made a mistake, big brother, I made a mistake, big brother, I made a mistake, I made a mistake. Ah. Mom. It hurts, it hurts. That's right for the pain. Liang Zhi pinned the person down to the ground, and the onlookers also realized it. A few young and strong young men who were closer to him immediately came over to hold the person down. One of the young man's accomplices, who was feeling unwell and wanted to run away, was quickly pushed down because he couldn't squeeze out. After the police arrived, everyone handed over the person. Before they could say anything, the other person recognized the identity of the young man at a glance and said, "Okay, Chen Feng, it's you again. In just a few days, you started doing your old job again." Listening to the police scolding the young man, Liang Zhi suddenly felt that the voice in his ear began to be unreal. He looked at Chen Feng carefully for a while and found that this person was really one of the brothers who taught him how to quickly disassemble batteries. Originally, this old boy started to rely on his craft to make a living when he was so old. Liang Zhi's mood suddenly became complicated at that time. Chen Feng was quite kind to him, beating and carrying him together, bullying him together, and even sharing the chicken legs he had only a few days ago. Give him a bite to eat. He also taught him what is said to be his ancestral family skills. It was this small skill that allowed him to earn some living capital during his early days by opening locks for others without needing to change them. "Comrade police officer, how long is his usual sentence?" Liang Zhi struggled with his thoughts for a while before gritting his teeth and asking. The police officer looked at him with a friendly attitude and said, "Generally, it takes about 15 days. He is a habitual offender, probably for a month. It mainly depends on the value of the stolen property. If it is valuable, the sentence may also vary." He patted Liang Zhi's shoulder and said, "The young man did a good job and acted bravely. However, next time, don't be so impulsive. These people are constantly wandering around and committing crimes, many of which are organized. If his accomplices remember you, they may retaliate against you. Hey, good. Liang Zhi nodded and asked where Chen Gaofeng was detained before smiling and sending him away. After Lao Zhao and others dispersed, they had a chance to approach and glared angrily. You really scared me to death just now. It's okay. Liang Zhi smiled foolishly and said, I work in the field all year round, and I have a lot of strength. I can fight several thin and dry people like this. Blow it off. Lao Zhao glanced at the person and breathed a sigh of relief. With such an episode, time has been completely wasted. Even if he takes people back now, Qing Shao won't blame him for not doing something good. Lao Zhao smiled heartily and said, all right, have you bought all the things? We'll go back once we've bought them. It's going to be a while, and the show's over. Liang Zhi is also in a hurry to go back now. After following Lao Zhao around all morning, the Five Organs Temple had already started clamoring for offerings. When I returned home, I did see traces of being searched inside the house. Although it had been carefully restored, I could still see a slight disorder in the slightest. Especially on the warehouse door, a thick layer of ash had already fallen off. After Grandpa Liang's death, most of the things were divided up, and there were not many things left in the house, but there were almost all traces of being moved at this moment. Cheng Xiao's face darkened, but he still waited for Liang Zhi to unload his things and followed the people to the cemetery in Baihe village to pay a solemn tribute to the old man. After waiting for the incense candles and paper money to burn, he pulled up a smiling face and said to humanity, I think what you said this morning is right. The soil and water in this area do indeed nourish people, so I plan to stay for a few more days. I don't know if you can. Cannot. Without hesitation, Liang Zhi refused and gathered up the paper dust on the ground, making sure there were no sparks left. He then stood up and looked at Qing Xiao with a clear gaze, saying, Qing Xiao has come all the way to our small place, and has asked Uncle Zhao to spend my money on me and rummage through my house. What exactly is it for? Let's get to the point and speak frankly. End of this chapter. My suggestion for Chapter 8 is: believe in science. You are listening at novelfull.audio. My suggestion for Chapter 8 is: believe in science. Cheng Xiao's face instantly turned ugly and gloomy, glaring fiercely at Lao Zhao. Lao Zhao's legs suddenly became weak. I didn't say anything, he swallowed the drain. Cheng Xiao's gaze turned back to Liang Zhi and he smiled. It seems that the young brother has a sharp mind. If you have something to say, don't brag, Liang knew. Cheng Xiao. He had a scene full of words, unable to speak, and surprisingly felt a bit uncomfortable holding back. After a while of rest, he picked up his smile again and said, I'm not sure what that thing is, I'm not satisfied with what the little brother said. Cheng Xiao pointed to Lao Zhao and said, I just heard that Mr. Liang has a miraculous medicine. As long as he persists in drinking it for 3 to 5 months, he can cure his illness. He said, Yang County Magistrate of your county has been suffering from stomach ulcers for almost 2 years and has been seeking countless medical treatment. He has almost decided to resign and recuperate. Even after drinking Mr. Liang's miraculous medicine, he was cured. It is not a problem to continue working in this position for 10 years now. It is completely possible to move forward. Liang Zhi frowned. How can he remember it? At that time, there were rumors that the big backer behind County Mayor Yang was going to collapse. He couldn't wait to collude with his family, but the big backer was unharmed. He turned around and liquidated him. Cheng Xiao, listen to my advice. If we are sick, we still need to go to the hospital. It's important to see a doctor. It's better to believe in superstition. Liang Zhi said earnestly, we must believe in science. We really can't do anything about it. Cheng Xiao sighed and said, the old man at home has been tormented by stomach problems for several years, and recently it has been found that he may have some liver cirrhosis. We, the younger generation, all wish we could bear this for him. We also think that if this thing really works, the old man can suffer less. If it doesn't work, it's just that Yang's exaggeration, and the result won't be worse than now, right? Liang Zhi remained silent for a moment. Cheng Xiao's mind turned and he said, as long as you can help me find Mr. Liang's miraculous medicine, I will have a great thank you. As he spoke, he directly pulled out a stack of 180 Great Unity cards from his wallet and said, could you please help me think about what clues Mr. Liang had told you before his death? Liang Zhi swallowed and his eyes were almost glued to the pile of money. He is not really a greedy person. It's just money, it smells so good. Liang Zhi silently recited in his heart, money is a bastard. But there is always another voice following the conversation. No money, it's really ruined. Money is a poison that penetrates the intestines, money is a sugar-coated bullet, money it's foolish not to earn money. Liang Zhi grinned and folded the stack of de Tuan Tuan into his inner pocket, saying, look at you, Cheng Xiao. You're so polite. When you come home, you're a guest. If you can help, I still need to help. He became much more enthusiastic and said, I don't remember the miracle medicine you're talking about, but Grandpa Liang often gives me something to drink. Every time I ask him what it is, he doesn't answer, just hits his cigarette bag and tells me with a smile that it's a good thing. This is not his nonsense. Why don't you talk about what kind of feature that thing is? Cheng Xiao immediately gave Lao Zhao a glance and asked him to speak. Lao Zhao hurriedly said, that thing is slightly brown, and it looks quite transparent through the light. Liang Zhi. Is it gone? Lao Zhao let out a sigh, and after a while, under the dual gaze pressure of Cheng Xiao and Liang Zhi, he racked his brains and remembered another key point. County Mayor Yang said, it's sweet. Liang Zhi. He suppressed the urge to roll his eyes and asked coldly, Uncle Zhao, does that thing still have a slight bubble sensation? Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Lao Zhao excitedly patted his thigh. County Mayor Yang said that it tastes like sparkling water, but it doesn't have the same energy as cola. It's sweet, and it's really delicious. He looked at Liang Zhi eagerly and said, Xiao Liang, have you ever seen this thing? Liang Zhi shook his head and said, no, I just suddenly thought of Feijai happy water. This description is really similar to yours. What is Fat House happy water? Old Zhao looked confused. It's just cola. Liang Zhi was a bit unsure of what to say, with a slightly helpless tone. Uncle Zhao, look, it's brown, transparent, and has bubbles. Does it sound like cola? It's still chilled, in a glass bottle, Coca-Cola. If you don't believe it, go to the town and buy a bottle later to see if it meets your criteria. Lao Zhao suddenly became somewhat suspicious of life. Is cola brown? Cheng Xiao's face was cold and gloomy, looking very unhappy. Cheng Xiao, to be honest with you, after Grandpa Liang passed away, the villagers had already divided up everything that looked valuable and could be divided in his family, and the rest were just some worthless and unlucky junk that no one looked up to and took back. Liang Zhi candidly said, everything in the house is clear at a glance. You have searched through it today, and there should be a number of them. There is really some divine medicine. I guess it was either taken away by someone or cremated with Grandpa Liang. His voice paused, not wanting to return the nearly 1,000 yuan that had already been put into his pocket. After thinking for a moment, he said, my suggestion is that we should still believe in science. But if you really want to get this thing and try its effect, why don't you see if you can mix some of that divine medicine from County Mayor Yang? I'll try it and maybe remember if it's something I've drunk. Cheng Xiao's face darkened, but he couldn't think of a better way. I can only turn a dead horse into a living horse doctor and believe Liang Zhi's lies for the time being. Go back to the county town, he said. Now we can only order from someone surnamed Yang. Of course, they also have someone surnamed Yang who took the initiative to show filial piety before, but stayed in Beijing. That's why he made this trip specifically, because he had checked and confirmed that there were no issues with the ingredients. I didn't expect to miss out. Liang Zhi sent away the person and returned to his house to put away the things he had bought. Put the pot on the stove first. Put the oil, salt, soy sauce, and tea in the bottles and jars. Finally, there is rice and noodles. The kitchen is not very spacious, and after placing these things, it feels a bit difficult to move around. Liang Zhi pondered for a moment, took a broom and cloth, and went to the warehouse. The lock on the warehouse door was violently opened by someone, but now it was forcibly locked back and restored, causing it to get stuck inside and the key to become useless. He tinkered with it for a while before finally understanding the crux of the lock. With a fierce operation, he was sweating profusely before restoring the lock. Fortunately, I learned a little craft. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. Otherwise, I would have to spend money to buy a lock. Don't be fooled by the fact that he has gained a lot of money scattered by Qingxiao now, but he doesn't have any income to earn. Even with this 1,000 yuan, he won't be able to live a good life. Not to mention sitting in the mountains and eating in the air. Sooner or later we will get everything. We still have to make money. As he was sighing, he pushed open the door and was suddenly stunned by the sight and smell in front of him. He thought he knew what Qingxiao and his team were talking about. End of this chapter. Chapter 9 Beverages of the 1980s. Red Tea Fungi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Beverages of the 1980s. Red tea fungi. There are 2 small earthen jars in the warehouse, covered with thin gauze, curtains, and straw quilts, which are now lifted up. A large white meat ball with a diameter of 70.80 centimeters inside is floating in a dark brown liquid, seeming to be alive, wanting to emerge from the water to exchange breath. Surprisingly, it's a vinegar moth. Liang Zhi finally remembered that there were many things piled up in this warehouse, including sorghum, millet, and a lot of vinegar residue. The villagers sorted out the grain in the warehouse and didn't even have any vinegar residue left. They each went home to feed the pigs. Only these 2 vats of grain vinegar were covered with a layer of white mushroom-like substance floating on top, and there were also large lumps of meat like taisui growing inside. However, the villagers who had not seen this thing were startled and dared not smash it even if they wanted to. In addition, there is no one in the village or nearby who knows how to make vinegar. The first time I saw the white-colored bacteria and even flying insects floating above, I felt that the vinegar was spoiled. Afraid of that white meat lump again, no one dares to divide these 2 vats of vinegar, that's all. In his past life, he quickly followed the Yi family to the city and didn't have much opportunity to deal with these 2 vats of vinegar, so he naturally forgot about the vinegar moths in the vats. But even if I remember, I guess he would have wasted this good thing just like the villagers. After all, he didn't know this thing at that time. He was able to recognize it at a glance just now because he had a cellmate in his past life who had been in the vinegar-making business for the first generation in his family. With him, he became even bigger and stronger, directly establishing 2 large vinegar factories. At that time, business was almost spread throughout the surrounding provinces, and it can be said that the future was promising. This old man found it boring to do business and started promoting culture, claiming to promote vinegar culture, build vinegar workshop cultural blocks, run museums, and engage in tourism projects. He also had to shoot TV dramas, talk about the vinegar industry, and do greater publicity. I heard that the scripts have already been spent a lot of money to have someone write them. I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, not long after, this guy came in because he was suspected of illegally raising tens of millions of yuan. At that time, what this old man told him the most inside was his grand plans. And how vinegar was brewed. There is nothing to mention about my brother's glorious history, but brewing vinegar has sparked his great interest. After coming out, he followed the method taught by his elder brother and tried to brew grain vinegar. Not to mention, that taste is real. A sour mouthful hit my heart, making me want to shout, shudder, loudly. It's so satisfying. It's not even comparable to blending vinegar. With the years that followed, people became fond of pursuing the pure, non-fungicidal taste of private houses. Whether it was oil extraction or vinegar, they all liked to find private workshops, insisting that no additives, no sterilization, and more primitive and natural were the best. He also used this small craft to barely make some money for food and clothing. Anyway, brewing this thing doesn't delay him from going out to work, and you don't have to stare at it all day and night. Wait for it to saccharify, liquefy, and finally vinegar. With acetic acid, this vinegar will follow suit. Later, with the prevalence of fermentation culture, many people fell in love with fermentation. After fermentation, a gust of Kanpu tea blew into the circle of friends of the fermenters. The divine medicine mentioned by Qing Shao is probably it. This thing once sold well in Europe and America, and eventually directly entered the international beverage market. Later, it also vaguely brought the trend back to China, although it was not popular for a few years. In fact, this thing was very popular in China as early as the 1980s. It can even be considered a unique, fat house happy water, from the 1980s, and for a period of time almost every household kept it to drink. Just talking about Kanpu tea, many people may not be up to it. But when it comes to black tea mushrooms, vinegar moths, winter mushroom tea, hai bao, and wei bao, there will definitely be many people's memories of the times hooked up. There is indeed a saying that it can treat a variety of chronic diseases, such as hypertension, diabetes, constipation, hemorrhoids, cataracts, etc. However, Liang Zhi never drank this thing in the 1980s. Later in the 21st century, with the rapid development of information, he had already developed the ability to remain unmoved in various exaggerated information bombings. He somewhat sneered at the incredible efficacy of this thing being spread. His attitude towards health food has always been that if he can drink it without any problems and the taste is indeed good, then drink and eat it, and don't expect too much from others. He drank this Kanpu tea for a while because there were many vinegar moths raised in the grain vinegar at home. Vinegar moths are not only occasionally made into cold dishes to eat, but also used to soak in water and drink. This drink is not too sour or sweet to drink, with a slight bubbling sensation. It is a drink with a good taste. Later on, he stopped liking carbonated drinks and let it go. Liang Zhi looked at the vinegar moths in 2 cylinders, and his heart suddenly began to ripple. This thing was once popular in the 1980s, almost the kind that was popular throughout the country. Although it disappeared later, it did not prevent it from making a comeback. Is it possible for him to directly turn waste into treasure, and use it to occupy some market share in the beverage industry? Liang Zhi was an ordinary person in his previous life, and after a lifetime of mediocrity and incompetence, he naturally did not feel that being reborn would enable him to have multiple intelligent brains and dominate the market economy. But this does not prevent him from wanting to do some stable and progressive small business, which may not necessarily lead to great wealth and prosperity. As long as he can have a stable income and ensure a stable income during droughts and floods, it will be enough for his family to have a relatively prosperous life in the future. He will not have to do things like staring at the eyes just because he cannot cure his illness, which will ruin the brightness of his life. This requirement is not excessive, is it? Liang Zhi's mind was filled with chaotic thoughts, but his heart was troubled by having only ideas and not enough plans to implement actions. He tidied up 2 vinegar jars, scraped them clean, and soon there was only clear grain vinegar scattered with a strong sour aroma in the jars, followed by vinegar moths floating up and down in the vinegar soup. I found 2 more wooden boards, set them up with a few bricks to raise them, and brought over rice and other things. Looking at the environment in front of him, his desire to make money was like wild grass growing wildly in the spring breeze in March or April. If he had been calm and thought about having a house and land before, and had enough time to think about everything slowly, now he is completely impatient. He wants to make money. At least this house needs to be renovated first, the kitchen needs to be doubled, and the entire floor needs to be plastered with cement before tiling. Otherwise, this grain will be stored in the warehouse, and in a few days, nearby mice will be able to make friends. Liang Zhi looked at the white rice noodles and became increasingly worried. Within 2 steps of walking out, he turned back and carried the rice and noodles from the warehouse to the West house. He made a space on the western room Kong, placed 2 wooden boards on it, and placed rice and noodles on top. Looking at the bag of rice and noodles facing away from his own bed, he finally felt a little more at ease. This time, the mouse should not dare to commit violence in front of him. After tidying up his things, he took advantage of the still light and went out to pick up firewood twice before returning. Although it is only September now and winter is still far away, the firewood for winter must be prepared with care. He stewed a pot of dry rice for dinner, and when he was rushing to collect the soup, he added some dry wood to the firewood hot pot stove, and the fire instantly became lively. When Bai Xing's rice comes out of the pot, there is an extra layer of rice underneath. Liang Zhi took out the rice and put it in a basin, closed it with a curtain, and then took advantage of the heat to lift the rice and knead it into a ball. When it's warm, the rice is neither soft nor hard, and the taste is just right. He took a few bites and the eggs and tofu in the pot were almost chubby. In order to wash fewer dishes and have no outsiders at home, he didn't pay much attention to anything. He filled a large bowl of rice and started cooking around the stove. The soup was full and only the slightly yellow tofu at the corners trembled as he poured it into a bowl. Then, he scooped an extra spoonful of soup and poured it over the rice tofu, stirring it up and down. It was so beautiful. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. It's always others who make money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. It's always others who make money. After digging 3 bowls of rice with a heavy head, Liang Zhi finally stopped to rest with satisfaction, thinking that it would be great if he could have a bite of scallions now. Unfortunately, the yard is bare at the moment, so there's nothing to ask for. He belched twice and began to tidy up the dishes. Take out the remaining eggs and tofu from the pot and put them into a rice bowl. It's also convenient to heat them up tomorrow morning. Just brush the pot with water, and by the way, brush the rice bowl. After rinsing it with clean water, it was casually placed on the pot table. No one is so particular about it, how can we get on with it? He came back with 2 bundles of firewood from outside, but he didn't rush to work. Taking advantage of the fact that it was still light, he went to the previous reclamation area for a stroll. The staff of the Cultural Relics Bureau have set up a greenhouse, indicating that they plan to dig for another period of time. He knew it was not a good time to continue farming at this moment, so he wandered around and picked up 2 daily items to put in his mouth on the roadside, as if this trip was just a casual stroll. After wandering around for a while, he finally remembered something. He forgot to buy farm tools. The hoe and shovel in the old man Liang's house are also the first thing in the village. The fact that the Yi family was able to make him take out his clothes and bedding was mostly due to bad luck. If he didn't take them away, they would definitely take them and burn them. It's impossible to give him important things like farm tools. When he was at the market, he even forgot to clean up. Patting his forehead, Liang Zhi thought about borrowing from someone else's house. After wandering around the village, it finally swayed to the head's house. To be honest, he has lived in Baihe village for more than 10 years and really doesn't have much friendship with the villagers. Apart from those who are nearby and have dealings with the Yi family, he can't even recognize many people. He usually works alone with his head down. Adding to the fact that he had borrowed money before, he felt that borrowing a hoe from the village chief could be considered as a way of getting to know each other twice. So go borrow from the village chief's house, it's reliable. Sorry to trouble you again, uncle. When I finish using it, I'll return it immediately. I'm sure it won't delay you from going to work tomorrow. Liang Zhi smiled kindly and politely. The village chief said in a benevolent falsetto, "What are you talking about? With a hoe, what can be delayed? You can rest assured to use it, don't worry about it." Liang Zhi naturally responded with a smile and greeted the person before leaving. Watching others disappear from sight, the village chief finally snorted to his daughter. "Law, did you see it? What did I say earlier? This kid is determined to be in our family. The village chief's wife had a foul-looking face and ignored anyone. After wandering around the village, she returned with a slightly unsightly expression and said to the village chief, "I asked. This kid just wandered around the village a long time ago, grabbed 2 handfuls of roadside goods, and then left every day. It doesn't seem like he's going to work on the ground. He came to our house to borrow a hoe. Are you saying, is he trying to test us?" She remained calm and said, "We can't just follow him like this. Otherwise, he would come and borrow some things over and over again. Isn't it a habit in the future? He's just trying to test our bottom line. Borrowing money and things now. I can't say I'll have to borrow people in the future. He's already in his 20s. 20, it's time to start a family. Wei Shufan values money more than her lifeline, and it's not her biological child. She definitely didn't plan to arrange for him to marry a wife, but such a big young man should have known about it long ago. Can he not think in that way?" The village chief's wife looked tiger-faced, as if facing a great enemy. "My own girl is also 16 years old this year, and she lives in her aunt's house in the county to attend high school." The village head didn't look very good, but he still scolded humanity. "Nonsense. After Uncle Liang died, his hose and shovel were all picked up. Maybe he just wanted to make a mess of the yard. Don't be alarmist. You don't have to chew words with me here. What did you mean by asking him before? You should go. Do you think I don't want to go?" The village chief grabbed 2 strands of hair and gradually became irritable. "I'm not sure if he really knows or not. If he doesn't know, let's go without confessing. Isn't that because someone has a handle and a handle? He went as soon as he finished breakfast today, but at that time Liang Zhi had already been taken out by Lao Zhao to buy things. He didn't touch anyone, but was startled by the man who didn't know where he came from. That person doesn't seem like a good troublemaker. He's also afraid it might be someone who's looking for a child." At the moment, he didn't dare to speak up and came back disheartened. But such a shameful thing, naturally cannot be told to one's own mother. In law. After noon, he saw the big red jeep again and felt even more that this matter needed to be considered in the long run and not acted rashly. "Don't be this person, you really heard some news from somewhere. Come and inquire about the letter." The village chief's behavior was purely guilty of being a thief. He was scaring himself, but the more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Liang Zhi doesn't know about the village chief's house because he borrowed a hoe and discussed it for so long. He is currently busy working in the yard, digging a few ridges, lighting up cabbage seeds, and kicking the soil with his feet, stepping on them tightly. At this time, planting autumn cabbage is actually a bit late. However, there are walls around the small courtyard of the Liang family. He plans to pull a few meters of shed cloth and build a small greenhouse tomorrow, so that he can plant some small vegetables and eat them conveniently in winter. After busy work, it's almost getting dark. Liang Zhi returned the hoe and then returned to the house to start burning the Kong. "By the way, I cooked a pot of tea egg on this fire." When cooking eggs, he deliberately took some vinegar water from the warehouse, mixed it with yellow wine, and put a small amount inside. In the early 1980s, there were already many individual businesses. Walking through the streets and alleys, pulling a small car, and carrying a basket to sell things are also quite common. However, at that time, most people didn't have much interest in this kind of flow outside the system. Especially for those who were doing small businesses at that time, besides unemployed young people returning to the city, retired workers, and farmers entering the city, there were also many laborers. It is inevitable that people will wear colored glasses. It wasn't until later at many individual businesses earned money and became wealthy, that people gradually changed their preconceptions. Liang Zhi now has the money given by Qing Shao in his hand, but it is difficult to take it out directly. Otherwise, Wei Shufan alone would have to throw tantrums, claiming that he had nothing but gained this money for no reason. He must have stolen from home. He can't find Qing Xiao to testify to him, then even if he can definitely prove his innocence, there is still a lot of arguing. It's a waste of time, not to mention it, which can affect his mood. Coincidentally, he also plans to take a look at the current situation of doing business. Is it really as easy as picking up money? Even if he had truly lived in this era for so many years, he had only heard people say how good this era is, how many opportunities there are, how easy it is to earn money, and how regretful it was to have missed it. I always feel like I've experienced that era, but it seems like I haven't experienced it yet. The one who makes money is always others. He can only listen to stories of others seizing opportunities and becoming rich happily, and continue to work the next day. Another thing is that he wants to do the business of black tea mushroom beverages, and it is impossible without capital investment. It's impossible for him to build a factory and a production line with just a little over 1,000 yuan in his hand, right? We still need to earn more money. End of this chapter.